Hello there and a happy new year. You are watching Talking Europe on France 24. This our first edition of the programme since the United Kingdom started its new relationship with the European Union. A relationship that's based on a deal that was struck well into the 11th hour, just 8 days before it would come into force. Now, as British and European citizens and businesses adjust to the new arrangements, we have a special double bill of Brexit-themed interviews for you. In this part of the programme, I'm joined from Bratislava by the European Commission Vice President and Commissioner for Slovakia, Maros Sefcovic. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and also Happy New Year to all your viewers.
Thank you very much. Well, let's start off with the big headline of the new year for the European Union, the UK-EU deal itself. Chief negotiator and your colleague Michel Barnier described the deal as a moment of relief and sadness. Do you share those sentiments?
Absolutely. Usually after such a lengthy negotiations, you have a certain feeling of joy, of accomplishment. But here, I think the sense of accomplishment and relief was clearly there. But also it was a little bit such a sweet sorrow, because you see your long-term partners leaving the family. And as Michel very often says, there is nothing like happy divorce. But still, I think that now we have Brexit behind us. We can focus on our future in the EU. And I'm glad that today, as of 1st of January, we do not have that chaos which might have been in place if we wouldn't be able to secure the agreement.
Indeed. Now, Boris Johnson is seemingly very happy with this deal. There's been a UK government internal document that was leaked online that showed that the UK government believes it had 2.5 times more wins on key negotiating areas than the EU. And the negotiations themselves did obviously go up to the wire, concluding on December 24th. In the end, did the EU team give in to time pressure and give concessions to the UK to avoid a no deal?
No, that I can clearly explain and say that the deal is really fair and balanced. And as you know very well, there was a lot of ups and downs that the negotiators been really overcoming all the problems linked with COVID-19 when you had to really negotiate through the screens, which is very difficult. But we've been very calm and determined until the end. And I think we have secured something which I would describe as an agreement of the new type. I think it would be model for all the new agreements of the EU. Indeed, it's the most ambitious the EU has ever signed with a third country. Much more important from the terms of conditions, safeguards and volumes, the agreements we signed with, for example, Canada or Japan. And we also have very strong rebalancing mechanisms, very strong safeguards, and we definitely protected all our red lines and European interests. So we are very pleased with the result, and we hope that the agreement as it was signed will be now dutifully and diligently implemented.
Well, one area where both sides compromised was on fishing arrangements. We're led to believe that fishing was the biggest stumbling block of the final few weeks of the negotiations. Now, what's been agreed is that there will be a gradual slowing down of the amount of fish that EU fleets can catch in British waters over a 5.5-year period. Now, after that, there's going to be annual negotiations. Is that perhaps setting the EU and UK up for an annual clash?
I think first, what is very important is that for all European fishermen and fisherwomen, nothing will change for 5.5 years, which I think will allow us to really also help the fishermen and fisherwomen communities across Europe to prepare for this new situation. As you also know, we approved the Brexit adjustment reserve of 5 billion, which is clearly destined for all the communities, all the sectors and regions which would be the most affected by the Brexit. So I believe that we will have good responses and good solutions also for the fishermen and fisherwomen in the EU. And after these 5.5 years, we will proceed with annual negotiations. But again, there are very strong safeguards that it has to be fair, it has to be based on scientific evidence, and that we have to have also fair agreement after these 5.5 half year. So this has been, I would say, the interest with which we went into the negotiations, and I think that we pretty much secured our goals.
Well, just looking at potential disputes without wanting to be a pessimist about things, but you personally were involved in negotiating with the UK just in autumn 2020 after the British government said that it was prepared to potentially break international law by breaking parts of the original withdrawal agreements regarding Northern Ireland. Now, Boris Johnson's government did eventually U-turn on this. But after this episode, which saw you travelling in an emergency situation to the UK, prompted legal proceedings by the EU, do you trust the British government to stand by its commitments?
I think that we both learned from that experience, us to make sure that also in this agreement we have proper safeguards and different mechanisms for the dispute settlement. And also our UK partners, that the best way to resolve our problems is through negotiations, because in the end it was also such a 12-hour agreement on how to implement timely and properly the withdrawal agreement. We did it, and I believe that once the UK government removed these controversial parts of the internal market bill from the draft bill, that it opened the way to this super intense, turbocharged last round of negotiations, which brought the success with which we both are very pleased. So the same pattern will be repeated in the next year. So we are going to establish Partnership Council, which will look for the potential political solutions to the problems which might arise, and I'm sure there will be such a problems because it's very comprehensive, wide agreement. Then we have the system of independent arbitration tribunals, and also the possible of different retaliation. But I hope that as a good partners who are opening this new chapter in our relationship, that we will also look for the solutions around the negotiation table.
Well, in terms of future disputes more broadly, there is also a provision in this deal for either the UK or the EU to trigger a review of the entire agreement and potentially end it after a 12-month notice period. Now, that wasn't in the original withdrawal agreement, and it does set up the possibility of another no-deal cliffhanger at some point in the future. Isn't that a bit of a dangerous provision for the EU, which has clearly said so many times that it is against no deal?
I think that the deal is so advantageous for the both parties that it would be only the responsible approach for both the EU and the UK, that we will try to find the same constructive negotiating spirit for all potential future problem, as we clearly demonstrated it during this last 6 weeks of super intense negotiations. But I think in the end, the possibility for suspension of termination has to be an agreement. If one of the parties would decide to really distort the whole arrangement and agreement which we signed together, or not respect the obligations stemming from the agreement, that there have to be also this possibility. But, you know, I'm very optimistic that after we solve so many difficult problems over the last few weeks, that we will really start the proper implementation. We do it in a good faith, and we'll be looking for all possible solutions for problems which might arise in the future.
All right, just one aspect regarding Brexit, which has come up particularly in Scotland. This is a nation that was very much opposed to Brexit. Scottish voters voted by 2/3 to remain in the EU in the 2016 referendum. Now, the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has been talking about wanting Scotland to get independence from the UK, regain the benefits of EU membership. Now, if Scotland were to become independent from the UK, would you see Scotland getting either automatic membership or perhaps fast-tracked membership?
Here it's very difficult to speculate, because I can imagine how sensitive is this debate in the United Kingdom. So I would leave it for our UK colleagues to have that discussion. Of course, I believe that the deal which we negotiated at this stage is the best we could get, because the United Kingdom really decided to leave not only single market but also customs union. So the fact is that there is no more free movement of persons, goods, or services or capital, and that it's a different quality of relationship than we had before the 1st of January before today.
And just a question, if I may, about the coronavirus pandemic. Vaccinations in the EU began in the last days of December. Rates of vaccination, though, vary greatly between different states. Germany racing ahead with tens of thousands of people getting the jab, but France had only given it to about 300 in 4 days. Now, are you disappointed by the slow pace of vaccinations here in France?
I think that, and I strongly believe, because the situation is difficult really across the whole European Union, that this is the last chapter in this terrible nightmare which affected so many of our citizens across Europe. The most important thing today is that we are well stocked with the high quality and safe and properly tested vaccines. Now the national strategies have to kick in, and I'm sure that all governments are putting all the efforts into making sure that the vaccinations will accelerate, and that hopefully by Easter or the summer we will be gradually returning back to our normal lives.
All right, another prediction from you. Perhaps we will come back to you in a few weeks to find out if it's come true. Thank you so much for now, Maros Sefcovic, Vice President of the European Commission.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks to you for watching. Do stay with us. In part 2, we're going to be speaking to Ireland's Europe Minister about Brexit. See you then.